Guys, it's Monday night. We tapping in on the Coach Reed Live Show. I want to ask a quick question. Smoke, what's in that cup you drinking, man? 'Cause you've been saying some wild stuff lately on social media. So I know we're going to have some viewers that's going to want to know what is in the cup.
H2O.
Okay.
I just finished up the coconut water to get my hydration on deck. But right now it's just regular. You know what? It's filtered water. Filtered. But my question is, where's your gallon of water that you're supposed to have too, my brother?
Listen, right here.
Man, that's only, listen, love. You starting out, there you go. You're starting out small, but it's time to grow. But
well, it's the end of the day. I'm finishing.
I'm proud of you, man.
I'm finishing. We working, man.
And I'm proud of you, bro.
We working.
Proud of you. Wow.
Now, I'm going to tell you what. Those bald heads are extra clean shaven that you guys got.
Mm-hmm.
We look good tonight, don't we, Reed?
No, you look good, B. I'm just here.
I'm cool with that. I have my makeup artist and everything, man. We got touched up, so I'm ready for the show, man. Let's get it popping.
Guys, I'm excited, man. We got some great topics tonight. I know B, you've been all over the country watching some basketball. Give us some updates real quick about what you've done the last couple of days.
It feels like, honestly, to your point, man, I actually went to Indianapolis this weekend. I've been in Phoenix. I've been in Sarasota. I've been in Charlotte. I've been up in D.C. I've been a lot of places since even December the 1st. Yeah, Smoke. I was there for 14 hours, though. I landed at like 6 on Friday, watched some games. I was there for the first 2 slots the next morning and got out of there. So it's been a lot, but it's been great, man. I'm obviously looking forward to the show tonight. And I hate that I missed last week because I did want to talk about Mahomes. I'm a hope Carl throws me a lob. Let me talk about my guy Patty Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Hey, Carl Reed, love Hurts.
It does. That's real.
Hey, man, shout out to the Super Bowl MVP. Hey, I'll tell you what. Jalen played an outstanding game because he was not asked to do things that he's not good at.
Absolutely.
He wasn't asked to make progressionary reads, throw balls across the middle that he usually skips like a young kid skipping rocks on a pond, right, to his receivers. He was asked to throw deep shots, which he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL right now.
I'm going to tell you what, Smoke.
Talk to me. I
was in the barbershop the other day. I know you guys ain't been to the barbershop in a long time, so you guys don't get to be a part of these.
Hey, hold on. I still go to the barbershop and just chill. I'll be hanging out. They got a chair just for me, brother. I order everybody donuts and drinks. It's fine.
All I'm telling you is I was at the barbershop, right? Mm-hmm. And there are some guys who have this question. Jalen Hurts probably should have been the start over Tua all along.
Okay. Hold on.
I'm
going to say this because I don't want to take it too far off the rails. Smoke, you're going to feel me on this, right?
God.
I'm a Georgia guy. Y'all know this. Self-professed. Georgia, SEC guy, Georgia guy. That was the right move, man. Hurts was struggling. Tua came in. He was great. They lose that game if Hurts doesn't play. I hated it for us. Selfishly, as a Georgia fan, the worst thing I could see was a substitution because Jalen was struggling. I was so mad. I'm like, who is this kid? Jalen couldn't find a rhythm. I wish they had kept playing and we'd have won the game. It's fine.
Thank you. Hey, Reed, I got 2 questions to ask you, right? Were those guys in the barbershop, were they Georgia fans?
No.
Were they Bama fans?
No.
Good. So they didn't want to see Bama win a national championship is what you're telling me. Because it was the move that the whole entire team wanted. The receivers hated playing with Jalen at the time. They wanted to catch the ball. Just like Smitty and AJ, you look at him, the guy's on the sideline reading a book because he has to get his mind right for these rock-skipping throws.
I actually thought that he just wanted to read a good book. I think that you you're playing a little bit.
Did you see Wembanyama read it? Did y'all see Wemby and Jokic at the All-Star? Wembanyama reads a book before every game. I think A.J. Brown just reads books during the game. Hey, Devonta Smith couldn't be mad about anything. That's arguably for a guy that's won everything, that's arguably the biggest catch of his career. The ball was placed perfectly into the breadbasket.
I can't believe those people in the barbershop said that. They could have not watched any of Jalen Hurts' college throws in his first 2 years at Bama. Like you know that's Mike Locksley's guy, right? Jalen. So it's Tua, but you know Jalen's his dude. They had to make that move. They don't make that move, Reed. Listen, I'm owing Sammy and Shaq Lawson a lot of daggone money.
Don't worry, you got
right? And I'm Isaiah McKenzie, man, Boss Bailey, all them dudes, Big George Foster, all them dudes who came looking for me. If my man Tua don't throw that 26-yard. Well, like you said, ball perfectly placed in hand. Jalen did the same, but Tua did the same. But Tua was pinpoint in the second half. You don't need receivers if you got Jalen. Just need to play wing T offense. But that's why probably you're happy about that.
Right? I mean, the wing T.
Hey, run the rock. Hey, Reed, hold on. Since Smoke is back to his normal hating ways, let me go to another topic that Smoke always likes to take a couple shots at. Shador, my boy Travis, they're both gone. Does Prime stay, Carl Reed? Does he stay in Colorado and Boulder? Talk to us, man. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't he? I think that when you look at college football now, I would ask you this. What would be the upside in leaving? Smoke just said on another show the other day that the SEC, and we've talked about this on this show all season, the SEC is not the premier conference anymore.
Not anymore.
Right? So he's not a natural fit for the Big Ten, right, which is taking over. So if you have NIL, which he has shown the ability to provide opportunities for his players off the field. I'm talking about legitimate off the field options, right? And then you got the transfer portal. He showed the ability to attract top transfers to his program and has showed the ability in every class going all the way back to Jackson State to attract 4- and 5-star talent to his team. What's the upside in him leaving?
And one thing that you missed out on, Reed.
Go ahead.
Developing coaches for other universities to come and pluck away.
Yeah,
that's a hidden fact and a hidden tool and a skill set that most coaches don't have.
Well, he's giving guys opportunities who can really coach.
You know,
so when you think about Vincent Dancy, who was at Mississippi Valley State, because I can tell you when he first hired Dancy, when he brought him with him to Colorado, I was like, oh, man, what are we doing? Like, what is this? He says, no, this guy can really coach. He's really got it. Phil Lodeholt, who was the assistant O-line coach at Oklahoma, never had his own room. He took him and brought him into the fray. You brought in Warren Sapp. You brought in Damian Lewis. Right? You got Rob Livingston was coaching the safeties on the Cincinnati Bengals. Now he's arguably one of the top 3 to 5 defensive coordinators in the country. So it's talent identification, right? But in this, even when you look at Ohio State lost both of their coordinators. So from an assistant coach,
even a special teams coach,
even a special teams guy. So from a standpoint of losing coaches, that comes with the game. But if you're Coach Prime, what upside do you have to leave to a quote unquote blue blood program? Because what's happening at a lot of the blue blood programs is they don't feel like they got to spend the money on the kids. They feel like the kids should still choose the school based on the tradition, based on what has happened in the past. And we know that they're not doing that anymore. So I don't know what it makes sense to him. Now, the NFL may be in the future. Possibly that would make sense. But in terms of a college football program, name a college football program that, makes sense. Because another thing that he has at Colorado that you don't have at a quote-unquote blue blood, he gets to do whatever he wants at Colorado. He doesn't have to worry about boosters. He doesn't have to worry about alums.
AD in his back pocket screaming at him. Yep.
The buck stops with him. It's not a bunch of crazy alumni saying this is how we do it and this is the way the fight song is supposed to sound. It's just a different, situation. So with NIL and the transfer portal, and it's not just him, I don't know why any coach would feel the need to jump ship the way you did in the past, because you used to be jumping for more resources, right? Well, you're not jumping for more resources anymore, Now you can get done whatever you can get done based on who you are.
Especially now with you got rev share happening, Reed.
Oh, that takes it to a completely
There
different
you
level.
go. Now we're somewhat playing on the same field.
And so I think the biggest thing too when you look at Colorado is he has continued for every coach he's lost, he's continued to replace them. There's nothing but NFL guys in the facility. You hire Marshall Faulk, another Hall of Famer, and arguably one of the best offensive football minds in the game today. So when I talked to him and we talked about how he's filling out his staff and a couple of people that he's still looking at, everything is NFL pedigree. He's bringing NFL guys into the room that understand what it's like to be a pro, develop a pro, or identify a pro, and what it takes to get your game to the pro level.
And when you go into it, Reed, it's also mindset, like the professional mindset. Like if you want to achieve the pro game, I'm gonna bring in a guy in here with you that can sit with you day to day and spend as much time as you need to. That's allowed by the NCAA to get you prepared and ready for what your dreams are of playing in the NFL.
And I don't think that many people have done a better job than he has at identifying the guys that you need to make that work. So you're an SEC guy to the core. Does it make sense for a guy like him to go to an SEC school? Like, who could offer him a better situation there than what he has right now?
Listen, Reed, you hit on it already. Like quality of life. Like, you can go somewhere. Let's take Kalen DeBoer for an example. He goes down to Alabama. Now he's getting $10 million a year. Unlimited resources. But that pressure is on you so tough and so hard from the second that you walk in there. I believe he could have gotten the same thing done last year at Washington that he did at Bama last year too, if he would have stayed. Now, do you get $10 million? Probably not, but you got 8. But the stress level dramatically goes down. And you can basically write your own ticket and do whatever you want. I said the same thing to you a couple of days ago about Charlie Strong. When Charlie was up at Louisville, and yes, Texas comes calling. But when you leave Louisville to go to Texas, there's another heater that you're stepping on. It's a win right now because there's an understanding that Texas is about national championship. If you don't get to a national championship game and your 3rd or 4th year, they're going to try to run you out of town. Well, heck, you go to Louisville and go into a bowl game and a Jan 1st bowl game, New Year's Day bowl game, you're crowned king. You're getting extension. So you have to understand what you want and what you're trying to get out of it. And you can still get a lot of things done at the school that you're at because all you have to do is now really finish in the top 12. Now you're talking about playoff expansion, going to the 14 or 16 format. So if you just fit in top 16 out of the top 25, you're in contention with everybody else. So no, you don't need to go to a quote unquote blue blood school to get what you want to get done as a head coach.
And I'm gonna tell you what too, man. You and I both know guys that are in the SEC smoke that wish they weren't in the SEC right now.
Absolutely.
Because of the pressure. And I've been telling guys this my entire career. There were schools I coached at that 7-3 would get you a parking spot. It might get you a statue. It get you an award, at the school board meeting. And then there was places I coached that 7-3 would get you fired. It'll get you looking for a new job. And so you got to understand the kind of job you have and what it is you're trying to accomplish and what you want for your career, because your record in some places get you paid, in other places it gets you asked to leave. So you got to always keep that in mind, when you're coaching at any level. Right?
Quality of life, man.
Well, and for Deion, I'll say this and switch it, but I think he's so unique. We talk about this a lot on the show where, his pedigree. I actually saw a guy today walking around in the diamond to turf shoes, right? His pedigree is just different, so he can move a little differently. Where for most people, Kalen included, right? That extra, let's say Washington was going to give him 6.5 or 7. He gets 10 at Bama. That extra 3 is life-changing, man, for your family over a 5-year span. Charlie Strong's a great example, right? I can make 2 to 2.2 at Louisville, but that 5 at 25 guaranteed at Texas. Even if they fire me in year 3, I now have set up generations of people with that money. I'll take my chances, right? I got to go take my chances. I got to shoot that singular shot where Deion can hire Marshall Faulk to Boulder, Deion can hire Warren Sapp and those guys be willing to move out there, there's not another coach in America that can hire people at Colorado or even Oklahoma State, where Mike Gundy is in Stillwater, and those places where they're a cut below SEC resources, and you're still getting those Hall of Fame level guys. You just can't do it. So he gets to play by a different set of rules, and he's earned that. Like, I don't say that in a bad way. He's earned that with his play. He's earned that with the Jackson State stop and the Prime Prep stop before that, and just who he is as a person. He's earned the right to be able to do that, and I think that kind of changes the game in terms of maybe some of the other people that we would mention needing to go take that generational money, but their family ain't seeing the checks Deion family's seeing.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely 101 too. You know, he's a cultural icon. People get upset when I say this, but I'm telling you, if you've ever been around him, if you've ever been anywhere with him, there's not a place that he can't go in the world where he doesn't immediately get mobbed in terms of people who want to take pictures with him, who want to get some of his time. He's a cultural icon, and he's an incredible football mind. He's definitely one of one. And we got to remember, most guys that played at a high level that tried to coach, no matter what level, it did not work for a multitude of reasons, but it has worked with him. Now, listen, Smoke, I want to go to you on this one because we all know years ago the Richie Incognito, Josh Martin, the bullying thing, that kind of resurfaced where Martin has backed off that a little bit. Now, you bought Incognito. You were at Buffalo when he came there after that. What's kind of your take on that particular situation and some of the bullying things that, people talk about in the football world?
Well, the Richie Incognito situation, very close to, and that was really driven by our owner Terry Pagula. They had the know-it-all and understanding that Doug Whaley, his general manager, surrounded himself with people like myself, Jim Monis, that could understand a certain person like Richie Incognito and really get to the bottom of what happened in Miami. Because if you remember, no one wanted to listen to Richie's story. Mm-hmm. Everybody believed Jonathan's story of he bullied me, he did this, he did that. But at the end of the day, the same story that Richie told me on that Thursday, cold, 4 feet of snow afternoon when I had to pick him up from the airport, when I got the direction from Doug Whaley of saying, Smoke, pick him up, take him to lunch, make sure that he gets to his physical, and you have him the entire day until we get to dinner. And by the time we get to dinner, you have to tell me and Terry Pagula, should we sign him or not? So I want you to get his character check and get that done through simple conversation. So as soon as I leave the Wyndham Hotel, because we're having draft meetings, to go pick Richie up, Richie comes out, cut off sleeve, jeans, and some red Chuck Taylors with that big burl chest walking. He gets in the door, and you would think that what just happened of him using all type of slurs and being quote-unquote bullied to a black male, you would think he would get in the car and be like, oh, my God. He got in the car and be like, hey, man, what's up, dude? If you know how Richie talks. Hey, man, what's up, dude? Hey, Richie, what's up, bro? I said, you know what, Richie? I said, before I even press on the brake to put this car in drive, I got to ask you a question, man. What is this foolishness with you going on using the N-word and this and that and that? Richie's like, hey, listen, bro. Honestly, I ain't even like that. But let me explain myself to you. He said what was going on in that locker room was locker room talk, locker room politics, and what we do as football players. He said the same thing that Jonathan is, quote-unquote, saying I did to him. He did the same thing to me as well. Richie played tapes from when got voicemails on his phone, showed me text messages of text going back and forth between all of those guys. And at the end of the day, Richie was like, hey, listen, bro, the guy hates football. He does not want to play. I was just the reason, and I gave him a reason for him to find a way out. Now, I'm not saying Richie's not guilty for any of that stuff that happened, because they both were doing it to each other. Did he go overboard? Yes. And if you know Richie, yeah, Richie's going to go overboard. But, Reed, I don't know if we had a better teammate or if guys in the locker room had a better teammate than Richie Incognito. What Richie Incognito brought to us in his time in Buffalo was toughness, togetherness. He had guys, Jonathan Miller, that was a young guard, trained him up right. Cordy Glenn, one of your guys from Georgia. Cordy played his best ball with Richie just because Richie was a tone setter and a leader of that offensive line. You want an offensive lineman? Richie's the guy that you want.
For guys that, you know, when you think back to when we played, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about the way the world today is, the way the world is today,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that went on in locker rooms that'll get you in a lot of trouble today.
Mm-hmm.
Things that were done, things that were said. Now, when we were coming up, we didn't have cell phones. You weren't going to be recorded or anything like that. But that's kind of the first time that a bunch of guys from different places, regardless of where your race was or your income level, your power, like whatever you were or wherever you were coming from, that was the place where people met, you know, from a standpoint. But the locker room was always a sacred place.
Yeah.
It's really not that anymore.
No, not at all. And even while he was in Buffalo, he was still getting crushed with, you know, why you guys sign him? And we all look back, was like, he's never been a problem. He's not a problem here. Funny story, Reed. So after that day, and we end up signing Richie, and it goes all over the news. The Buffalo Bills bring in the bully, the guy that bullies his teammate, and was the most hated player in the NFL. Like, guys hated playing against Richie, not because Richie was no chump. Richie pushed that envelope to being nasty. Guys swung their helmets and tried to take Richie's head off because that's how he played. But if you played with him, Reed, that's who you want to run the ball behind. And that's who you want to go into a fight with at any point, at any time of the day. So I get back, and my nephew that was living with me at that time, Philip, we signed him, and he's like, yo, you know, Uncle Jared, why'd you guys sign the racist guy that's a bully? This is going to be bad for your team. I said, bro, honestly, you got to sit down to Richie and figure out who Richie is, because the Richie that was in the car with me today and the guy that I just spent all day with, it's not the same guy that I'm hearing about. So he's like, I'm telling you. So I said, you know what? We go to the facility the next day, and I grabbed Richie. I said, Richie, my nephew, he thinks that you're this like malicious animal that walks around and just bullies everybody. He said, okay. He said, what's your name, dude? Said Philip, say, hey, Philip, come here. Takes my nephew, and they proceeded to walk up and down the football field. And before you know it, comes back. Richie's like, hey, listen, if you ever need anything, Philip, hit me up. If you're ever in Arizona, holler at me. My nephew walked in and was like, you know what? Sometimes you should not judge a book by its cover or listen to what others are saying about somebody else without engaging with that individual and having a conversation with them. Richie's still one of my dudes to this day, Reed. If I'm in AZ, I hit him up. And that when he said, if you're in AZ, hit me up, I'm about to go out to AZ with the wife and the kids. And I see Rich. I say, Rich, I'm going to be out to AZ. He said, Smoke, here goes the code to the garage and the code to the house. When you pull up, make sure that you pull up to the residence.
Brandon, why has bullying culture and what goes in locker rooms intensified so much over the last decade as opposed to what it was years ago?
I mean, multiple facets here. First of all, it's lawsuits, right? You know, the ability to bring litigation against teams, owners, people who have a lot of money. Same thing at the collegiate level, right? Schools getting sued left and right. Coaches, the coaches don't get sued because they don't have any money. It's the class action suit against the university, right? They go find the people with the money. You know, it's the Jay-Z, not to get too far off topic, but to the topic at hand of the lawsuits. You know, it's the Jay-Z lawsuit that just got dismissed, where Busby was able to get Watson because the NFL needed that to quiet down. We couldn't even get to whether it was real, false, numbers, any of that. We just needed to go away, so pay the money. Where, you know, Rock Nation didn't have to rush it. They could let it be kind of noisy for a minute until they got to the real heart of the story, right? And so most people, they don't want the litigation. NCAA, they do not want the litigation. If they're, you know, Diego, get ready to file a suit. No, stop. And you can have a 50 year, you can have whatever you want, man. Just don't file a lawsuit, man. And so, you know, I think to the bullying aspect and all of that stuff, even the military, my dad is a veteran, super proud of him. And one of the things he talks about is how different the culture is now. Any video, any tape recording, you know, heck, now in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be dealing with AI. Did it actually happen, or is it AI that's, you know, just all that stuff? There's so many aspects people don't want the lawsuits and litigation. Not only the money aspect, but just to your point, Smoke, the negative connotation it could put on your name. And if and when it gets retracted, the retraction's on the back page, but the slander was on the front page.
Right. The guy had to sit out a year. The guy had to sit out a year of playing football at the peak of his career. And when you look up bullying in the NFL, regardless of what happened, Richie Incognito was a poster child for bullying.
You know, and a lot of times we go through situations in life, and sometimes guys say they're being bullied, but they're participating in a lot of it, you know, themselves. It happens we see it all the time, especially in the locker room. And then when something happens that they don't like, they use those incidents as a way out, you know, for them to be able to express themselves. But, you know, we won't go no deeper than that. We'll keep it there. So I got a question for both of you. I'm gonna start with Smoke. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play football. Would you agree?
Yeah, one of the most gifted ones.
One of the most physically gifted ones. The New York Jets deciding to move on from him. How will his era be remembered in New York?
As a failure. I mean, you can't put it in any other way other than failure. And Aaron was one of those players that so talented, but not really well liked by everyone. So the second that there's a chance that his skill set diminishes, the world pounces on that. And statistically, if you look at Aaron played at a top 10 level at the quarterback position last year, statistically. I mean, the Jets have sucked, didn't win any games. The defense didn't help to win games either. But the failure part of it is there. And we all knew it once he left Green Bay, that was almost coming to an end. Because he could have ended it better in Green Bay, but he wanted more money. He wanted more opportunities off of the field. He wanted more say in personnel. At some point, it's okay just to shut up. Be as quiet as you possibly can be, but be loud when you need to. Like, you can have those conversations with the owner, with ownership, with management, people in the personnel department about what you want. But the second that you make it loud, I don't think they want to hear that. Like, Tom Brady got a ton of things done in New England, but that was he and Belichick going into a room, closed door, let's have this conversation and let's get it out. Even when it was time for him to leave, it could have got real nasty. But what it happened, hey, listen, I have to go. We're parting ways. I'm going to go here. I'm going on a free agency visit. We're going to sign up. I'm going to play. And it's okay. I'm going to do it the professional way because at some point down the line, I want to be able to still come back, be on TV, be able to see you, and have a normal conversation without having so much animosity and issues with me just sitting here talking to you. Aaron can't get a conversation without somebody saying hate. And I don't think it should go down like that.
B, what's your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and his tenure in New York?
I love what Smoke said. There's no way to classify anything other than a failure. You brought him in. Head coach got fired, swept through the front office organization as a result. He got booted. They traded a conditional third rounder for Devontae Adams mid-year. That didn't help. Devontae Adams isn't going to be there next year either. I mean, there was just a lot of capital or financial, people casualties. And then obviously Aaron and Devontae on the field where they probably would have been better spending that capital somewhere else in hindsight, right? If they could go back and do it again. You could rewind it 24 months. They would have done it completely differently. But as a result, there's new blood in there. We'll see if they can get it right. They still got some pieces. You got Brees Hall in the backfield. You got Garrett Wilson, but Garrett's not happy, right? Like now you got people who are unhappy because of it. The earth is scorched. It's just a tough situation. And Smoke, I think you hit on the head comparing the way that he is, not who he is, but the way that he is with Tom Brady and the way that Tom exited New England. But you look at Tom Brady and everything that he does by and large. Save the Tampa Super Bowl when he got off the boat stumbling a little bit. He got caught slipping that day.
Everyone gets caught up in the parade, baby.
But for the most part, man, he's so intentional, right? It's so calculated what he does. Clean shaven. He always looks like he's fresh out the shower. He just put some cologne on. He smells good, right? And Aaron looked like he just showed up, man. Just woke up, got out the bed, just got back from a medicinal trip overseas. If y'all know, if y'all watched the Netflix special that he did, it was pretty good. Like, I thought it was insightful, and it kind of matches up with who he's been for the past 17 years, right? So, unfortunately, I think for the Jets, they got caught reaching. That probably wasn't a decision or a move that they should have made in the first place, given where the team was. But I understood why they did it. I do. It just didn't work. The smoke. He played well, but it just wasn't going to be enough, man. And who he is divisive, and that's okay. Especially as he gets older and more stubborn and set in his ways, it's divisive as opposed to, say, Peyton Manning toward the end of his career, or a Matt Ryan type of guy, where they come in, embrace the young guys, have them over, extra work, outside of OTAs. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pay for everybody to come to Huntington Beach with me, whatever have you. Aaron's just not built like that. And I think he needed to be, especially in the New York media, with the McAfee segments he was getting paid for and all of that. If you're going to do that, you have to fully embrace everybody. Everybody's going to be on your team to get away with that, and that's just not who he is.
Yeah. And those guys that you said, other than Aaron, the Peyton Mannings, the Eli Mannings, the Tom Brady, they're gatherers.
Yep.
They bring teams together. Aaron is just the biggest part of the team that can make your team go in whatever direction that you want it to go to. But I thought when the New York Jets allowed Aaron to start getting coaches hired, that was almost the end of all and be all. Getting Nathaniel Hackett hired, listen, you're asking to get walked out of the building. That's the reason why he got hired in Denver, because they thought that hiring Nathaniel Hackett would give them the best opportunity for Aaron to show up and play in Denver. But Aaron hit the reset button on that one too. So what happened? Nate get fired from Denver, but then he says, I want to go to New York. Nate comes over there. So when you start having players being able to pick and choose who you're signing in free agency, who you're drafting out of the draft, and who you're hiring on the staff, you're losing it. Especially if the coaches or the player is not playing at an extra elite level in order to combat all that foolishness that was going on with the Jets.
Does he have any juice left in the tank if you're another ball club?
Yeah, he has juice left in the tank, but you got to understand what you're dealing with and what type of team are you bringing them on to. If you're bringing them on to a veteran team, great. But if you're bringing them on a young team that needs direction, somebody to spend a lot of time with young receivers, for young receivers to understand what he's trying to say and not look at it as someone just throwing jabs at you or chastising or cursing you out or making you feel smaller than who you are as a player, that's not what you want to do with the team that you want to bring Aaron to. Because even though Brady rides you, look at some of those videos where you have the where he's mic'd up. Guys love playing with him. They say, hey, Gronk, stand up. You're on this route. Instead of saying, stand the hell up, dude, and then make a face at you when you don't catch the ball. That's the difference. Or he'll say, hey, yo, Julian, come on over. Motion. Bro, you're getting the ball. Or Chad, even though Chad Ochocinco, when he showed up there, didn't know the plays. But Brady was like, it's okay. AB didn't know the plays. He said, okay, all I want you to do is get a wristband, and I'll tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. Not look at you when I throw a ball and you drop it, like, how could he drop that, man? No, I'm going to work with you because I'm a leader, and that's what his leadership skill says. And that's what separates Aaron from Tom Brady. Forget this physical skill set. It's intangible that go along with Tom that makes Tom great.
Let's talk a little recruiting. We getting into that season where you're starting to see a lot of young guys get offers again, and we kind of go through this every year with the guys wanting to know is the transfer portal hurting high school kids, fake offers, real offers. I can remember 2014 is the first time that I got into it with a college coach about an offer. I had a college. I'm not gonna say your name, Coach.
You don't have to, but my man told me about this conversation.
Yeah,
and he didn't even know that I knew. Did I know you like I know you, Reed? Yeah. He's like, man, your boy called Reed. But go ahead. I apologize.
Listen, guy comes in, he offers this kid, asks me to get the kid's parents on the phone. We go through the whole deal. Then the kid wants to commit, and he's like, "No mas." Right? No mas. And that was 2014. I still don't think he's gotten a player from St. Louis since he did that, right? But that was the first time that had happened, and I didn't know how to handle that in that moment. I wanted to fight him is what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I wanted to, you know, you obviously can't do that. Well, you could have done it back then. It was a different time. You can't do it now.
Right? You get sued, my man.
Yeah, we could have fought then. Can't fight now.
Litigation and lawsuits, Reed.
But you see these kids getting a bunch of offers, right? And you know, and I know, like a lot of it isn't going to stick, right? But are we putting them in a bad space mentally from the beginning by not handling that right? Like if you're a college coach, do you have the responsibility knowing that you're offering a kid something when you know what his goal is, you know what he's trying to do, right? But you also absolutely positively know this is not a real scholarship offer. And this kid is going to one day come looking for this, thinking that he can go to a school. It's one of the happiest days in his life. And we talk about it all the time, is whether you're a college coach or a recruiting analyst or a rankings guy or an agent or a 7-on, wherever you at in the game, you're trying to educate these guys. But no matter what class it is, it's their first and probably only time going through this process. So they haven't been necessarily looking at the classes above them because they have no reference point, right? So as a college coach, do you have a responsibility to not put a kid in a situation where you're giving them a fake offer, knowing that he can't go play for you?
Well, Reed, there's several ways to look at this, and I can go into a couple. I'm going to go into one. And working for Mike Locksley at the University of Maryland, Lox is a DMV guy through and through. Absolutely. And the number one thing that we always spoke about and told any new coach that was coming on the staff that did not understand our community, because I'm a DMV guy myself, is that we live in this community. Our families are here in this community. So when we did offers, local offers, yeah, they have to be committable. And if they're not committable, you have to explain how they could become committable once they either A, through contingencies of say, hey, listen, we need you to show up at camp and work out for us and put you on the clock. We need you to come up here 3 times. Once you come up here 3 times and bring the players that are in the game with you, you can commit and we can understand that. Players that was out of state, say California, Florida, Georgia, we didn't have to see them all the time. So yes, you have to throw those offers out just to get in the ball game, just to play. Because if you don't throw them out, you don't have a chance because you're not seeing them putting hands on them. They're not within your community. Now, when I offered kids and I knew that I wanted them, I never went into an offer without explaining how do you make this offer all the way through and make it right. How do you confirm this offer? And it always was said, you have to commit with the head coach. But this is how the process is going to go between you and I and whatever university I was working with. Because everything comes with a contingency. And I'm a big believer of being able to explain what you're proposing in a business deal to make sure that the business deal works out right. Because I put myself in the case and say, okay, cool. If Mike Locksley, Mike Gundy at the University of Maryland, even my man Eric Sue Campbell at Michigan, or Double D Dwayne Dixon would have offered me at that time when I was coming out of high school and possibly tell me that it wasn't committable, yeah, I'm 44 years old right now, and I'm dealing with those guys today. I worked for Mike Locksley 2 years ago. So if he was full of crap, yeah, you wouldn't get me to vouch for you on anywhere I step on. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we all have to remember, you're not just recruiting that kid. You're recruiting a community. You're recruiting Carl Reed, that since 2014, whoever that coach is, they still can't step foot in St. Louis or touch anything that you have your hands on. So yes, you can say, oh, I'm the recruiter of the year and, I've offered 50 kids, but at the end of the day, you got to do business the right way. And when you do business the right way and you explain it, we all have to be able to accept it when it is explained. So that's what I would say if I'm a young coach out there and I'm thinking about how I'm doing it, explain yourself all the way through, because this is a business. And if you want to be in this business for a long time, you want to be making sure that you can touch the third generation, because you want to be in this business for longevity, just not for the moment of being the 2025 recruiter of the year. I've signed 10 kids. That ain't recruiting. It's building that relationship that I can, whatever I step through your city, Reed, you know what it is. You say, you know what? Smoke a good dude. You can rock with him because he's standing on his 10, and whatever you say, he really means it.
Are the parents at fault for not paying attention to the reality? Do they have a responsibility? Because you can be a parent and you can spend all the money. Like you can send your kid to the best football program, basketball program in your city. You can send them to all the camps. You can put them with the best trainer, the best 7-on-7 program. You can do all of that. And there's still no guarantee. Your kid can rush for 2,000 yards. There's still not a guarantee that a Division I scholarship will be given.
Reed, and I say it to parents over and over again, you have to ask the question and get the answer that you're looking for. Stop assuming that every coach that you talk to has the good intentions of making sure that your son or daughter is being taken care of. Everybody's not a good person. And every coach that recruits your child is not an upstanding coach that stands on his own 10 and believes that he's going to be around for whatever, for 10 to 15 years. Some guys just get into it just as a stepping stone to say, I'm trying to get to the league. So I don't even care if I go in here and throw a hand grenade in your community and mess it all up. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I used to tell guys. Don't go into my area and throw no hand grenades, because I got to come clean up the strap. Mm-hmm. When you're going in there, understanding that I am represented in that neighborhood, in that community. So go in with the intentions of just helping yourself out by just telling the truth. And parents, ask the question, is this committable? And if they say no, cool. How do we get here? Just don't get up and walk out like, oh, you guys have been stringing us along forever. No. How do I get this done?
This is a great comment. This is Kelvin Bell. He's the defensive line coach at the University of Iowa. We thank him for being locked in tonight. He says most parents believe in brands, not people, right? So I tell you this. When I was a high school coach, I took a group of kids to the University of Iowa to camp, and that was during the era. Everybody wanted to take pictures. They wanted to have on a certain jersey number. They wanted the gloves. They wanted to do the photo shoot. And I had some really high-profile kids with me. And so Kelvin Bell says, hi, my name is Coach Bell. Do you even want to know who I am first before you put on my Iowa uniform? Mm. Are you even actually up here to try to find what the University of Iowa can offer you as a player, or did you just come here to take pictures for you to post on your social media? And I think that approach, when I looked at Iowa, when I looked at the way he was recruiting, the way that LeVar Woods was recruiting, the way that Coach Ferentz was recruiting, I think the consistency came because their process really helped them find the right people when we were going through the recruiting process. And there were probably some guys that were some divas that didn't like his approach and didn't like what he said and the way he said it and how he said it. But the guys that were the right fit for their program, those guys really present themselves in situations like that. They really come up and kind of understand what you're going through when you're trying to find the right group of guys for your program, because recruiting has turned into something, now that it wasn't, intentionally meant to be.
Let me add to that real quick, Smoke. I was just in Iowa City a couple weeks ago, boots on the ground. I forgot to mention that to start the show. And obviously, I love what Coach Bell said. Their women's basketball program obviously is in a different place than it was, even a couple of years ago. Caitlin Clark set the world on fire. But if you haven't been to Iowa City, if you've never gone, it's a special place. It's really unique, right? Most college campuses, especially the size of Big Ten, SEC, those things are like multiple city blocks long, right? Like they're like 3 or 4 miles to the left. Then there's the core campus, and there's some more auxiliary stuff. The stadium, the sports complex might be another 2 miles away, 3 miles away if it's newer and they built it kind of off campus. The football stadium might be 6-7 miles from campus, depending on how it's built, right? Iowa's not like that, man. That thing is tight. It's in a box. It's condensed, which I like for the record. I thought it was awesome, but it lends itself to a certain type of kid. It is very much university centric, right? Like even more so than Athens or Auburn, in my personal opinion, right? Those are university centric, but they got more going on. You get to the interstate, there's a ton of restaurants, there's a lot moving. Athens, 316 area, there's about 8 or 9 miles around Athens and the campus. Iowa City's not like that. So if you get there and you're not really locked into your craft and really locked into those handful of city blocks that are right there in Iowa City, you're not going to enjoy your time. So we got you putting on the uniform, and for what? You don't want to come here anyway. So I love what Coach said, especially relative to your story, Reed, and then just having been there and seeing it firsthand. But they're the pro team there. I mean, it's awesome. Like the fan base and just the enthusiasm for what's going on that campus in totality is great to see. But to your point, Reed, I think a lot of parents, and Coach hit it on the head, they just want to go take the pictures. They're excited, and they don't sit down when they're in those offices and say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? Is this offer committable smoke? If it's not, what does my kid need to do? Do you see my kid at this level? Do you see my kid fitting your scheme? All these questions they don't even bring to the table. And that part is negligence, right? You can't see through all the BS. There's no way as a parent. Even us, we can't always see through it ourselves, and we've been in it 20 plus years. But at least bringing the correct questions to the table and not getting caught in the photo shoot, not getting caught in the brand new practice facility or indoor building, or someone who's been on Georgia campus multiple times, the video game arcades and the chef and like all this cool stuff. You got to bring good questions to the table and at least give yourself a chance to be educated. And then if you get fooled along the way, well, hell, at least I tried.
But you know what, B, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the parents or even runners, anyone that's involved in the recruiting process, they don't want to hear the right answer. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to be lied to as much as possible. They complain about being lied to, because when you tell them the truth, they say, well, I ain't coming here no way. Y'all ain't good enough for me. Well, you just asked me a question. Is this committable? Not at this moment, because you need to do A, B, C, and D. Well, the coach down the road said I don't have to know. Well, listen, you might want to take your business down the road, because we have, like you say, a process of doing this. That's why when you draft Iowa players, it's like cookie cutter, man. Tough, physical, discipline, show up on time, do what they're supposed to do. They might not be the most gifted, but you know you have a consistent pro, because that's how they've been built and trained from the beginning that they got into that school to the moment that they get out.
Hey, they have an alumni locker room on campus too, for all the guys that play in the league. It's
pretty dope.
A really nice touch.
Pretty dope.
Really nice touch. Kelvin Bell says here, I hate to offer just to get in the game. I recruit to Indianapolis as an area coach. When I show up to St. Louis, it's intentional. I'm making the trip here to see you. He doesn't want to throw out an offer smoke just to get in. I mean, he's going to throw a real offer out there. Let me say this. I deal with this with parents. Parents get more depressed a lot of times than the kids do about it. Parents get more like, why are we putting our self-worth, right? And where our kid goes to school or where they get a scholarship from. I've seen grown men. I'm gonna tell this. I'm gonna tell this story. I'm gonna tell this story, and I'm not gonna say their name.
Don't.
I'm not gonna say their name. This is a legendary St. Louis story, right? There's 2 dads in St. Louis. One of them is a really good friend of mine. The other guy I just know him really well, but we're not friends. And their kids are 2 high-profile, big-time recruits, big-time guys. Right? 30, 40 offers, big time guys. Their dad's at a little league game. That kid's not even playing. We're just watching the little league game. And they get so upset with each other talking about recruiting. They called their sons up to the game and they were about to make them race. Right? That's how I'm serious. They were about to make them race.
Oh. That's awful.
Had me and another coach at another school not gotten a call, they were going to make these guys race in front of the whole city. And I still don't know. And both of these guys will end up playing in NFL. So they still in college now, but I'm not gonna say their name. But
No,
as parents, you know, those are really the guys in a lot of situations that can make the situation uglier than it is, because most of the time the kid is okay with the level they're being recruited at.
Mhm.
But what I have found is the parents are a lot of times saying that's not good enough. That's not, that's not fair.
That's at all levels. That's at the youth level, the high school level, college. You're seeing parents want to fight in the daggone stands just to talk about how their kids are, and most of the time, parents are living vicariously through their kids anyway. Mm-hmm. Like the non-athletes that happen just to pop up on their son being a really good athlete. Now they can run around town with their chest out and like, oh yeah, my kid, me. And before the end of the day, instead of talking about the player, you start hearing the parent speak about himself like he's the player. And one of the things I always do, when they start talking about, my kid is this, I'm like, so what happened to you? How come we're the same age? How come I don't remember seeing anything about you? Well, I tore my knee up, and then my coach didn't really put my tape out there like that. Like that, just wasn't that good. But your son's really good. So just give him the opportunity to grow and become himself and just be able to walk around and have a good feeling of who he is without always having to say, my dad, because there's some point, and I said it, I was at a game earlier last year, and I was around a family. And whoever that kid is, whenever he gets an opportunity to go into whatever league, and I get a phone call for one of my scouts on the road, I'm going to say, hey, listen, you don't want to do anything with that family because that family's going to bring that young man down. Not going to say his name because I want to blow him up because he's still playing college ball. But whenever I get that phone call, I'm going to have to tell my honest to God truth.
It's twofold here, Reed. I think, T. Morant gets thrown out the game the other night. Like, John Morant's a whole pro on his second deal, and his dad's thrown out of the game. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen that. Maybe y'all have seen that. I've never seen a pro where their parent gets thrown out.
I have. This is the second time, remember, because him and Shay got into a fight.
Yeah, right? Like, I've never seen a parent get thrown out of the game. But you look at some of it, and not to blame, T wasn't in the car with them when Ja was acting up. But you're setting the standard for your kid that this is bigger than them, and it's not, right? And so I think to that point, Reed, we're a country of winners, right? So the same thing that makes our country so great is our downfall. It's Tyreek Hill and Noah Lyles having their what are y'all talking about right now? Like, but it's Morant, it's that. It's so people, we do that, right? Well, my kid's going to Texas, or my kid's going to Georgia. Your kid's not as good as my kid. We end up doing that. I call it water cooler bragging rights, right? You're bragging at the 9 to 5 at the water cooler. And it's like, yo, come on, all y'all got to chill. I was talking to a client of mine earlier today, and I said, isn't the goal, the baseline goal for your kid outside of going to an Ivy League school or an elite level Division III, which you gladly pay for, isn't the goal for your kid to go and for someone else to pay the tab?
D-free.
Yeah. And I said, everything else becomes a bonus. I'm not saying you shouldn't strive for whatever, but I think you got to remember where the baseline is. And if you can do that, then it allows you to just enjoy the process a little more, man. But to all of us, we just get going. And Read, to the fake offer discussion, I don't see as much of that in basketball on either side. But what I do see is, and even from a committable standpoint, right? You get offers, and almost all offers in basketball are committable the day that they're offered. There aren't a lot of non-committables. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. They're just not the massive offers the way there are in football, right? But what I see is that staffs get fired now. The turnover rate's much higher. Transfer portal changes an offer, right? Transfer portal takes a committable offer and makes it non-committable really fast. I've got a client of mine in the 2025 class available, really good guard. She could play, right? And I was talking to, her parents the other day. I said, listen, y'all got some good offers on the table. If it's me, timing-wise, Final Four needs to be the target. Because that following week, them floodgates open, and you go from being arguably the most premier prospect on the board to being one of 2,000 prospects on the board. All of those kids, they're older than you. they're more well-versed in college basketball than you because they've done this. And the parents, like, that's a great, like, thought process. So I say you have to look at it like that. And I think, Reed, unfortunately, we don't have enough brand marketing ambassadors, brand awareness ambassadors, people who really study the craft and trends of recruiting over the last, 2-3 decades to be able to speak to families in that way where it's like, okay, y'all can get caught up in this if you want to, but there comes a time where that offer is no longer committable. And here's why it's not committable. And it's not even someone trying to cheat you. It's not someone trying to shake you, but there are other options available to that university. So the same way that you're taking visits, the same way that you're doing these things, they're going to do that the same way. It's a job offer. It's a job offer from Amazon. If you hold that job offer from Amazon for weeks, they're going to move on and find somebody else that wants to work at Amazon and just call it good. Same thing.
This is a good question from Juan right here, guys. Is it an offer if it's non-committable?
Yeah. Yeah. Read here. There's and B. Clay, you said it. Basketball and football, totally different just because of sheer numbers. How many scholarships are typically given on a basketball team? What do you guys got? 15?
13 on men's, 15 on women's.
The biggest difference in football and basketball why you don't have uncommittable offers is because of AAU. They get to see them play live.
There you go.
So that's what we don't have in football. So that's the reasoning for it. A college basketball coach has seen that kid play live a bunch of times on the circuit.
It'd be hard for me to accept someone's commitment if I'm in Jersey and you're all the way in California and I've never seen you in person. Like, I've never seen you in person. Yeah, you're good enough on film, but I don't have verified height, weight, speed. I've never had a conversation with you in person to say, hey, listen, we'll take you. You could be 6 foot. And on your recruiting profile, it says you're 6'5". Now, it's okay when I say it's like I accept your commitment, but when you get down, I measure you 6 foot, and now you got to leave. No. So you got to show up. Let me measure you up. Let me have the conversation. Let's run, like you just said, in the AAU format. You guys see them a ton. Yeah, let's do 7-on-7. Let's do some competitive drills, and let's make a decision there. And also, I want to find out the person that's going to coach me. What's your coaching style? Who are you outside of being on the phone with me and telling me that I'm a great player and I'm the best? No. Like, see my worst. Let me hear your worst so we can make this 4-year commitment right.
Man, it's just when you think about it, Smoke and B, communication has to be important because why do you even want to offer or be able to commit without meeting the coach? We have so many guys that don't like their coaches.
Right.
And we got so many coaches that don't like their players. So a lot of that can get solved by you going to camp, by you working out, by you being up. But guys don't want to work out. They feel disrespected. A lot of that is we do have a lot of high school coaches, 7-on-7 coaches, and trainers that try to manipulate the process and keep guys from working out. You'll be surprised how many guys are being told not to go and work out because they, it's something in their game that they're hiding that they don't want to get exposed. But you have to allow people to see you in person for you to have any kind of chance. Smoke, you talked about running the 40. Can you take a corner if you can't see if he can really run?
Reed, I will never, and never is forever, that's a long time, never take a skilled player if you don't run for me. You have to. That's Mike Locksley 101. Every skilled player that Mike Locksley is taking at any stop that he's been at, if it's Maryland, New Mexico, Illinois, bro, you got to run. Even I had to get down and run. That was old school turf. Steph Diggs, run. DJ Moore, run. Rockin' Jarrett, run. So once I heard that and I started listening to it, I'm like, at every point during the recruiting cycle, the evaluation cycle, like, all skilled players run. At any time. I don't care who you are. Didn't Deion Sanders run?
Yes.
So time had to run. Why can't you run?
Hey, Listen, let me say this. When I was coaching in high school and parents used to come meet with me, they used to always tell me that it was about the education. Now, in all of my years of coaching, I coached for 22 years. I have never had a parent, right? I've had two that really talked to me about academics. It was always about football. It was always about playing time. It was always about what school I'm going to. Now, initially, when they were coming into the school, they told me it was about academics. Why is there no longer value on the education or the degree in the recruiting process?
Go ahead, B.
You know what's interesting to your point, Reed? I've been fortunate. I guess I'm hanging with the right people. One of our clients was just Rookie of the Year at UPenn in the Ivy League. She's got 9, like a literal 9 brothers and sisters at home, right? So being able to go there is a difference maker. Another client that's at NYU. They just won the D3 National Championship last year. Another one of our clients actually is going to go to UPenn in the Ivy League this coming year. A couple kids at Georgia Tech. And they're battling through some freshman stuff. They're not playing a ton, but they're not trying to leave as Georgia Tech, right? They want to get that degree. So, I think there's a balance, man. I think, again, to our point about the water cooler bragging rights and all that stuff, if you've got parents that value education themselves, right? They had either they didn't have and wanted or they were able to obtain. My dad's a graduate from the Naval Academy. Education was always going to be important in my household, man. Once I determined what I wanted to do, okay, cool. You got to go somewhere where you can get that done. I'm not letting you veer off and go to some random school just to go hoop. We got to stick to the script here, man. If you tell me this is what you want, you got to go get it. So, I think a lot of that now, and obviously there's still factors. They want to play. They want to do this and that. But I think there's a decent amount of parents across the board that are getting better with that. But I think you're always going to deal with some of that, man, where people move the goalpost on themselves. Literally, the goalpost is education at first. And they get to moving and talking. And with each conversation, the conversation gets further and further away from the goalpost. So I just think you got to cherish the people who do talk about it, because it's hard to get people back to their original goalpost, right? Especially if you don't live with them. Best of luck, man. So, I think people get caught in the hype. And we've talked about this too. I think shows like ours are great. But, there are all kinds of shows all day long that don't have these types of in-depth conversations. They don't have coaches from Iowa chiming in the comments that we get to speak to. It's literally just talking about the sport and stats and who's better. And is it LeBron or is it Jordan? And why didn't LeBron dress for All-Star Weekend so Norman Powell could play? Like, who cares, man? But I think if you're not careful, Reed, that's what you get caught up in. Though it was never your intention as an adult. You are in the barbershop where Smoke and I don't get to go. And that's what where your kid going to go? Now, honestly, I think my kid's going to go to the school XY. Oh, man, he better than that. She better than that, man. Hold on, maybe, but educationally, they offer the marine biology major that she wants to study or he wants to study. They offer the mechanical engineering specialist, or Georgia has the Terry School of Business. So maybe they could go play basketball at Kentucky or Arkansas, but they don't have the same school of business that Georgia does. And I think people being able to stand on their own 10 toes and deliver that, Read, is special. And you know how hard it is to find, whether it's kids or adults, that will put that goalpost in the ground and then not move from it.
Coach Bell brought up another good statement right here when we were talking about speed. He said, that's why football players need to run track. Get those times verified. I'm skeptical if you don't. Smoke, now you were the GM at Maryland. You were the director of recruiting at Vandy. You worked in the front office with Buffalo. How important was it to verify speed times?
1,000%. Listen, if you don't have the verification behind your name with whatever you do, it's fake. It's fake news. I used to go in there all the time and say, okay, we're doing height and weight on all the guys. At Maryland, if it didn't have a block M on it, then we didn't do it. I didn't trust it because I only trust my people. When you're going into business and I have to walk up to my boss, and I took this seriously, and I said, he is 6'4" and an eighth. His hand is 9 3/4. He ran a 4.6 on our clock And I gave all of it to it was our clock. Because I wanted to be able to look him in the face and say, hey, listen, we should take this kid. And when he said, okay, cool, get him on the phone. And when he said, the kid said, I'm coming, yeah, it made me feel good. Because we all miss. But when you don't have verified numbers, that's when you whiff. That's a big difference. Miss means you can play another position. Or instead of we thought you're going to play in year 1, you're playing in year 2. Whiff, you can't play at all. The only other position that you can play if you're a big guy, if you whiff, is center.
Don't do that.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting on it all night, man.
We're not hating on centers tonight.
Jason Kelsey told you the truth, man. I sent it to you, didn't I?
You sent it to me. We'll talk about that on next week's show.
A whole nother time.
So here's the thing too. Most of the time, though, when we miss on a kid, we don't miss on talent. We don't miss on size, on speed. We know how to evaluate those things. We don't miss on the tape.
So you think, Reed? You're
right. Well, guys that really know what they're doing, right? But where the most of the misses that I see come from is character, personality, system fit. Those are the things where guys miss a lot, because when you say a guy's an edge rusher, well, what does that really mean? Like when we rank him and we say, okay, this kid's an edge rusher. Is he a jack in a 3-4? Is he a 4-eye? Is he a 5? Is he a wide 9? Like that can mean a lot of different things from a system standpoint, right? So how deep are we getting into the evaluation on things like that? And then how are we handling the character standpoint?
Well, Reed, that's where when we're talking about Richie earlier, where Doug Whaley, Jim Monis, and Terry Pagula knew that they had somebody of myself that had the ability to judge character. I don't need to quantify any of that. That's a feeling, understanding, and instinct that I have within myself. Every evaluator does not have that. But you can surround yourself with people with those qualities. And again, I'm going to always tell anyone that's either evaluating or recruiting, whatever you want to call yourself, ask the tough questions to get the tough answers. Because the tough answers with the tough questions are going to give you the information that you need in order to make the proper decision. Because most of the time, Reed, we get into our own little silo. And say we're recruiting the edge rusher that you just said. And he has the ability on the football field, but his character is jacked up. You go and see him play, and a big guy gets after him and knocks him down, and he quits. Well, instead of writing that note down saying, the second quarter, he came back out, guy got after him, he quit. Yeah, you erase that out of your mind and out of your memory. You don't tell the staff that. Then he comes to camp, and he does the same thing, and you're like, oh, no, he just had a bad day. Well, no, he showed you repeatedly who he is. So instead of saying, you know what, I got to get my guy, understand that it's a character flaw. Make that obvious to the decision makers so we can make the proper decision on, hey, listen, we can take him, but understand that we need to surround him with A, B, C, or D. Or say, you know what, he's not a fit for us culturally, because the second that he gets in here, the dog in that locker room is going to sniff him out and run him out of here before we know it. Or you might have a kid that's on the edge of being like that sees this guy come in and gravitate to him. Now you have 2 in your locker room like that. Then the next step, you have 3. Then it becomes a building block of loser-like traits that you could have figured out in the process if you would have just told the truth and get up off of your high horse and saying, I got to get all my guys in.
What can a high school coach do to help their kids in the recruiting process?
Tell the truth. Tell the truth from the beginning. And when I say tell the truth, it sounds like a general statement, but you have to explain to that kid, what's your skill set? What's your level of play? What's your ability to go to a Division 1A program and be a starter? Tell them, yes, you have to be like this in school. You have to work out, go to class, be on time, because when coaches come in here, they're also checking your character. And I have to tell them the truth. And tell the parents the same thing as well, too. Appreciate you, K. Bell.
For me, what I always would tell my high school players and their parents, I'm going to tell the college coach exactly who you are. They can look at the tape themselves, right? They've already evaluated you, but if you smoke weed, they need to know that,
Mhm.
right? They need to know if you smoke because some coaches are okay with you smoking weed and some aren't. And so if they're against it, you need to prepare those guys for it. If you don't go to class every day, they need to know that. They need to know if you're going to be an academic problem. And I used to tell them, if you want me to say something different, then you do something different.
Right.
But I'm going to bring everybody in the room and I'm going to go through the prospect sheet and I'm going to say, good person, bad person, good student, bad student, whatever the case may be. Now, I'll tell you what, and I tell this to kids all the time. If you are a really good player, there was always going to be somebody willing to take you.
Mm-hmm.
Because good players are hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
There was going to always be somebody who felt like they could change you, they could manage you, that they had more resources than a high school. And those coaches always ended up in hell dealing with
Hey,
they always ended up.
I got one for you real
Or they
quick.
passed them off.
Basketball story on the flip side of it. So a lot of times we'll talk about, and rightfully so, okay, this kid doesn't do this or this kid does this that's wrong. The couple times that I feel like I've missed, and hopefully I've gotten better as I've gotten older. Y'all hear me now sometimes stand on business when I talk about a kid, but it's because I've seen something that I've seen before. I remember watching a young Peyton Pritchard at USA basketball trials. Josh Jackson in the room, Jason Tatum in the room. Peyton Pritchard wasn't no bigger than 5'11", 155 pounds soaking wet at this point. I'd never heard of him. I heard of all the other dudes. Okafor was in the room. Bam Adebayo was in the room. Peyton Pritchard was like 15 years old. He might not be able to drive a car yet with a license. And there were only 40 dudes in the room. So it wasn't like there was anywhere for him to run. There was nowhere for him to hide. Here's this little white kid. Jersey kind of hanging off of him. Y'all know the story how it goes. Mm-hmm. And when I tell y'all for 2 days, that joker didn't back down from nothing. And I'm like, yo, Tyus Jones was in the room. Like, Trey Jones was still young, right? Tyus was in the room. And I'm like, man, this kid is a competitor. And then he could hoop. Like, on top of all of that, he could hoop. And that was a moment for me going back now a decade. Okay, there's a stamp. There's a character stamp. You're surrounded by a ton of dudes. You know how good they are. And there was nothing about that room that scared you off. So now you put him on the Celtics a decade later, a ton of dudes in the room that are all still really good. And there's nothing about that room. Ironically, Tatum's still in the room with him, right? Jaylen Brown's still in the same room. There's nothing that scared him off. Second story, Kelsey Plum in high school. I'm watching a tournament out in Phoenix. She plays at La Jolla Country Day. Candace Wiggins, they've had a great list of people that were there. And so she's hooping. This is day 2. She had a 4-day tournament. Gets knocked in the mouth, tooth is hanging. She looks at the coach and goes, yo, can I go back in? She's like, no, you got to go get that like fixed, man. So they take it. She's like literally mad. Tooth is hanging. She's mad that she can't keep playing the game. And you learn something in those moments too, right? You learn what kind of competitor you have. You learn the person that you got, who you have, what that looks like. And so in 26, I talk about Kate Harpering a lot, and there was a game last summer. She rolled her ankle. You know how this goes. Watch this smoke. Almost like that. And we're playing against, Steph Curry was sponsored the team. Great team. Ashley does a great job with them. And Kate's mad, not because of the ankle, but because we were up by 6 and we're trying to take her back to the training room and get it wrapped up and iced up. And so you learn in those moments, okay, what does competitiveness look like, right? Reed, you've seen so many guys with the sled or in tough games or tough situations. I saw you post a picture with Glass earlier today and just how good he was and how competitive he was. And that, to me, that's the trait in a good way when you start talking about what sticks out in addition to your times, right? Your speed times, your shuttle, all that stuff. Who are you when it's time to really roll the ball out and it's time to play? Who are you? Can you stick to the script? Can you stick to the game plan? Do you go rogue? Do you start looking at your parent in the stands who's trying to coach you? Who are you in addition to the eval that we've already laid out? And to your point, read about character, both on field and off. It's very rare that both of those things don't line up. Normally, if you're really good character-wise on the field, you're on the court. Now, maybe your grades, maybe who you are as a student isn't the same, but you're trying. Or you have the ability when you get to the collegiate level and they put you with tutors, you're willing to try and give effort. It's very rare that someone who gives effort on the field of the court is just completely disinterested in the classroom and won't give any effort. They usually go hand in hand.
Yeah, most competitors, they'll do whatever they have to do in order to compete. So even if you hate school, you're not the brightest, you're going to find a way to get an A. And listen, before you even get out of here, my man Richie just texted me back that he appreciates us giving him the opportunity and sharing his story so well on the show. Richie, man, that's my dog, man. Appreciate you.
Tell Richie I said what's up. Now, here's the thing. B, you named a couple of kids in that last example. Smoke, I've heard Smoke talk about a couple. And I've got a couple. But it ain't a lot. Most kids aren't that tough. And that's where the separation starts to come in. Most of them is why the same teams win consistently over and over and over again. There's not that many tough.
Reed, let me share this. And this is what I always share with my kids and my nieces and nephews. Kids aren't the problem. Kids are whatever we can help them develop to be. Now, there's always a one-off, but they're blank slates. They're blank clays. It's the parents and the adults that's around them that allows them over a period of time to continuously behave in the manner that they're behaving in order to get that negative outlook on their lives. Reed, you've been around some awful kids when you got them, but you got them young enough that you helped train them and help them go in the right direction. Left alone, you know what would have happened to them. So I'm always going to say kids are good. It's the adults around them that allow him to be bad that are bad at the end of the day.
You know, I'm going to tell you this. It's different now for parents, though, because parents are limited. In we grew up in an on-site era.
Oh, yeah. Explain what on-site means for the ones that don't understand.
And then wherever you acted like a clown is where the circus was going to be.
It is.
That's what it meant. It meant if Big Reed got that call that I was clowning in school.
I'm a senior in school.
Yeah, one of the worst feelings in the world as a young kid is walking down the hallway and Big Reed is in the hallway. And you know, and your boys is like, oh shit.
You get that look. Ain't nowhere to go.
Hey, I used to have to go pick out my own switch off the tree. And you better make sure it's big enough too. If you bring me the smaller switch, I'm gonna go get it myself. So bring me a good one.
It's on.
Oh, man.
I was scared crapless of my dad.
No question.
I've never been suspended. I got one phone call home. It's because I thought that I was a cool kid that didn't want to play the piano. And my music teacher called and said, your son is talented, but he wants to hang around with those other kids. My dad gave me a look. I said, never again. That was the last time 6th grade music teacher ever called, ever got home. I'm to this day, if my listen, yeah, you got it, Pops. I ain't the one. I'm scared. It's okay to be. I'm afraid of I didn't want no drama with my mother, my 5 sisters, and my dad. They ain't want none of that.
Yeah, it did. It's things are different.
Hey, Reed, pull up this Go Irish in the comments. I want to talk about Marcus Freeman and what they're doing in the offseason over here. Because I like it. And Smoke, this is who you are. This is going to speak to your heart, man. So I want to talk about this for a second before we get out. Give me your take, and then I'll come behind it. Reed, I definitely want your thoughts too. You keep hearing pro model, right? Pro model. Talk to me about what that looks like. Obviously, Notre Dame is putting some pieces in place to make that look the way that you would think it looks. But give me the breakdown. If you're running a college program, if you're Marcus Freeman, within reason, what should a pro model look like in terms of how you would build it out within the scope of your finances? You can't do what the Detroit Lions are doing.
Well, B, I ain't gonna lie to you, okay? I am the creator of the pro model of all college football. When I got to the University of Maryland, Mike Loxley and I sat down and recreated a college side, which dealt with the portal side, and a high school side that dealt with only high school players. And recruiting was driven by the personnel department. Now, that's about as far as I'm going to get into it, because a lot of people like to copy and paste information. And I'm not involved in the business of handing out free work for you to go out there and cook with, and don't pay homage back to the smoke doctor for helping you create it. But the pro model is basically taking a lot of the recruiting, not the recruiting, the evaluation standpoint away from the coaches, putting it more on the personnel department that you've hired in order to now to tell the coaches who to go out and recruit. That's about as far as I'm going to. You got to catch me offline, and I'm like a buck. I'm like a what am I going for nowadays, Reed? Because you my agent. What am I going for an hour?
I'm gonna tell you, it's hefty. Just DM me. DM me. I don't want people to be all in your business on your paper.
Hey Reed, here's the crazy thing. So most people really think that I'm just talking noise. Explain to our audience that I have a book, a whole entire file system that you and I go through almost daily.
It's the size of a telephone book. And when you think about the grading system that's used, it's the National Football League grading system. And I'm not going to explain it here because, like Smoke said, the game is to be sold, not told.
So
but
we got cap information in it. We got ways to develop and understand the development standpoint of what area you're at. Reed, listen, man, if they want to get right, come talk to me. I got it.
Critical factors for each position. It's a lot. It's a lot. And when you understand that, it helps you with recruiting. It helps you understand what level the kid should play at. It helps you determine whether a kid can fit in your system from a schematic standpoint. It also helps you figure out whether a kid has the mental makeup to be in your program. Because if you're going to expect certain things, well, what if you're a guy that wants to work out? Some teams practice at 6 a.m. Well, this guy's been tardy to class 47 times to his first hour. School starts at 8 o'clock. So is he going to be able to consistently get there at 6? He probably doesn't fit your program.
No.
Right? And most coaches, when they fall in love with a talent, they don't know how to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
See, recruiting is just like business. It's a negotiation. But if you're not willing to walk away, you have no power. Right? So once you identify that a kid can play for you, you have to then make sure that the kid fits or you can't have any success. That's why so many guys get fired. Because you're trying to if the high school coach couldn't get the kid to behave, you ain't gonna be able to get him to behave.
No. and B Clay, not to answer your question properly, once you assess the prospect's physical traits and that he can play for you, that's only 25% of the battle. The other 75 goes into character and fit and ability to develop into what we all want, professional level play. Because if you look at the national champions over the last 10 years, go up and down that roster. There's a high percentage of those guys are playing at the next level. Absolutely. That are also on your team. So you have to be able to project that as well too.
And then there's a lot of coaches who have struggled with the newer model because they used to recruit in the area, determining everybody that's in their room. But with the salary cap model, with revenue sharing, right? I was on the phone with an SEC head coach the other day, and he said, Reed, with revenue sharing, salary cap, transfer portal, my position coaches can't handle the totality of how the roster has to be built.
Nope.
Which is why you have a separation of the two, which is why the NFL model has always been to separate the two. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely imperative that you have a front office model for player personnel, roster construction, salary cap, and then you have coaches who actually coach the kids on the field.
And also recruit them. But you also have to have your leader as your head coach that can step into the room and say, this is my personnel guy, this is my offensive coordinator, this is my defensive coordinator, and we're all going to work together because at the end of the day, every one of these scholarship and even walk-on kids, they all belong to whatever university is on your chest. And the second that the leader can get that done, that's when you see teams start moving in this direction. That's why Texas Tech is doing such a good job, because both of those guys trust and understand each other. That's why Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer work so well together, because they understand what they want at the end of the day. For a head coach, all you have to tell me, because I'm a painter, okay? You tell me what you want on that canvas, and I'll get that done for you. Just give me an image of what you want your team to look like that, it's done. That's my job. It's not my job to go in there and say, I like this guy. No. I am putting together a team through the vision of the head coach. That's overall our leader.
And we're going to end on that note for all the young coaches watching today. Join the Coaches Portal, coaches-portal.com. Use the code Coach Reed to get you a little discount in there. Make it a little cheaper on you, a little lighter on you. But it's for coaches, by coaches. We will see you guys next Monday night.
That thing sound like FUBU, man.
Hey, listen to this. It's not quite FUBU, right? But it's also not as nice as those bald heads you got, and the fact that you took Freddy Krueger's shirt and wore it on the show.
It's okay. Listen, Reed, I've been known to be one of the dapperest guys in America.
This is crazy.
You ask any building that Smokestep stepped into, from grammar school to elementary school to middle school to high school to college and even in the pros. I'm top 5 flyest guy in the world, and when I put these threads on, bro, it's tough.
To be continued.
Shout out my boy Jay Grizz in the comments with the Notre Dame, man. We appreciate you tapping in, Jay Grizz. We see you.
See you.